President Laura Davis walked through the halls of the newly constructed Galactic Assembly building on Luna, watching alien diplomats from across 3 galaxy clusters gather for the most important political event in cosmic history. 6 months had passed since Admiral Morrison's ultimatum, and the response from alien civilizations had been overwhelming. Over 800 species had formally requested admission to the new Terran Alliance. Laura was a woman in her 50s, with brown hair and intelligent green eyes, who had been chosen to lead Earth through the transition from a single planet to the center of galactic government. The responsibility was enormous, but she had the full support of humanity's military leaders and the grudging respect of alien populations who had learned that humans preferred cooperation to conquest. Ambassador Carl Thompson approached Laura with the latest diplomatic reports from across the galaxy. Carl was a tall man with gray hair who had spent his career preparing for first contact with alien species. Now he found himself managing relationships with hundreds of different civilizations, all eager to prove their loyalty to humanity. Madame, President, the Zephyrian Council has formally ratified the Terran Accords, Carl reported with obvious satisfaction. They are requesting immediate inclusion in the technology sharing program and offering to provide their industrial capacity for human expansion projects. Laura nodded as she reviewed the agreement documents. The Zephyrians had been humanity's greatest enemies, but they had also been the first to recognize that resistance was hopeless. Their quick surrender had encouraged other species to accept human leadership rather than face the terrible alternatives that Earth could provide. Dr. Nina Foster entered the assembly hall carrying the protocols that would reshape galactic civilization over the coming decades. Nina was a brilliant woman with red hair, who had designed the uplift programs that would gradually elevate allied alien species to human technological levels. Her work would ensure that Earth's partners became strong enough to defend themselves, while remaining dependent on human guidance. President Davis, the first phase uplift candidates have been selected, Nina announced as she handed Laura a datapad containing detailed profiles of 12 alien species. These civilizations have demonstrated complete loyalty to the Terran Alliance and have populations that can safely handle advanced technology. Laura studied the profiles and felt a mixture of pride and concern about what humanity was creating. The uplift protocols represented the most ambitious social engineering project ever attempted. Earth would share its reality-shaping technology with carefully chosen alien partners while maintaining absolute control over the most dangerous applications. What about the species that refused our alliance, Nina? Laura asked as she returned the datapad. The Corvan Empire and the hegemony of suns both rejected our terms, Nina replied with a slight frown. They are maintaining their independence, but they have agreed to strict non-aggression pacts. Our dimensional monitoring stations will ensure they cannot develop weapons capable of threatening human interests. Admiral Morrison joined the group as they prepared for the formal opening ceremony of the Galactic Assembly. Jake had been promoted to Supreme Military Commander of the Terran Alliance, and his responsibilities now extended across 3 galaxy clusters. The man who had once defended a single planet now protected hundreds of worlds and trillions of alien civilians. President Davis, our intelligence reports indicate that the remaining independent species are already showing signs of internal pressure to join the alliance, Jake reported. Their populations see the benefits that our partner species are receiving, and they want the same advantages for themselves. The opening ceremony began as representatives from 800 alien civilizations took their seats in the Great Assembly Hall. Each species had been assigned representation based on their population, size, and their contribution to alliance security. Humanity held exactly 51% of the total votes, ensuring that Earth could never be outvoted on critical decisions. Laura took her place at the speaker's podium and looked out at the sea of alien faces representing every form of intelligent life in the local galactic region. Some were humanoid, while others looked like living crystals or sentient gas clouds. All of them shared one thing in common. They had chosen partnership with humanity over the alternatives that Earth could provide. Citizens of the Terran Alliance, Laura began as her words were translated into hundreds of different languages simultaneously. 6 months ago, your civilizations faced a choice between cooperation and extinction. You chose wisely, and today, We begin building a new kind of galactic society based on mutual benefit, rather than conquest and exploitation. The alien representatives listened carefully as Laura outlined the structure of the new galactic government. Earth would provide military protection and advanced technology in exchange for loyalty and resource sharing. Species that proved themselves. Reliable partners would receive additional benefits, including access to dimensional travel and reality manipulation techniques. Ambassador Thompson took the podium next to explain the detailed workings of the Terran Accords. Each member species would maintain internal autonomy while accepting human oversight of their military and scientific development. Trade would be regulated to ensure fair distribution of resources while preventing any single species from accumulating enough power to challenge Earth's dominance. The Terran Alliance offers you protection from external threats and internal conflicts, Carl explained to the assembled diplomats. Human military forces will defend all member worlds against aggression, while our reality shaper technology ensures that local disputes can be resolved without devastating warfare. Dr. Foster presented the uplift protocols to thunderous applause from the alien representatives. The promise of technological advancement was irresistible to species that had struggled for centuries to develop faster-than-light travel and effective energy weapons. Under human guidance, they could achieve in decades what might otherwise take millennia. The first phase uplift program will begin immediately, Nina announced as excitement rippled through the assembly hall. Selected species will receive training in dimensional engineering, quantum mechanics, and basic reality manipulation. Advanced technologies will be provided as each species demonstrates the wisdom to use them responsibly. But the most important moment of the ceremony came when Admiral Morrison took the podium to address the underlying foundation of the new galactic order. Jake's presence reminded everyone that human generosity was backed by incomprehensible military power. The Terran Alliance exists because humanity chose cooperation over domination, Jake said in a voice that carried absolute authority. We could have simply conquered your worlds and enslaved your populations. Instead, we offer you partnership and the chance to grow beyond your current limitations. Jake paused to let his words sink in before delivering the warning that would define galactic politics for generations to come. But never forget that human mercy is not human weakness. Any species that betrays our trust or threatens our people will discover that Earth's reality shaper weapons have no upper limit to their destructive potential. The ceremony concluded with the signing of the final Terran Accords by representatives from all 800 member species. As each alien diplomat added their signature to the document, they were formally accepting human leadership and the protection that came with it. President Davis returned to her office after the ceremony and found Admiral Morrison waiting with the final classified reports about Earth's secret weapons program. Jake handed her a folder that contained information about humanity's ultimate insurance policy against future threats. Laura, you should know that our reality shaper technology has a built-in limitation, Jake said quietly. The more we use it for aggressive purposes, the less effective it becomes. The weapons are designed to encourage peaceful solutions by making conquest increasingly difficult over time. Laura opened the folder and read the technical specifications with growing amazement. Jake, are you telling me that humanity's Doomsday arsenal actually pushes us toward diplomacy rather than warfare? That was always the plan, Jake replied with a tired smile. Dr. Campbell and her team built moral guidance into the fundamental structure of our most powerful weapons. The technology works best when used for defense and cooperation, rather than conquest and exploitation. Laura closed the folder and looked out at the stars, where human ships now patrolled hundreds of systems, ensuring peace and stability across 3 galaxy clusters. So we became the dominant power in the galaxy by building weapons that make us better people, rather than more effective killers. Exactly, Jake said, as he prepared to leave for his next assignment. The aliens think they surrendered to superior military technology. What they actually surrendered to was superior human wisdom about how power should be used. The Terran Alliance would endure for thousands of years, bringing peace and prosperity to countless worlds, while humanity guided galactic civilization toward achievements that no single species could accomplish alone. Earth had not conquered the galaxy through fear, but had won it through the demonstration that true strength came from knowing when not to destroy one's enemies. Admiral Morrison stood in his command center watching communication screens that showed panic spreading across 1,000 alien worlds. The defeat of the Coalition's Great Armada had sent shockwaves through every civilization in 3 galaxy clusters. For the first time in galactic history, an entire military alliance had been crushed by a single species that most aliens still considered primitive. But Jake knew that crushing the Coalition fleet was only the beginning. Real peace could not be built on a single victory, no matter how overwhelming it might have been. The aliens needed to understand that humanity was not interested in conquest or revenge. Earth wanted security and respect, and those things could only be achieved through demonstration of absolute power. "Begin Operation Galaxy Storm," Jake ordered as he activated the master communication system. Dr. Lisa Campbell worked at her station coordinating the most complex scientific project in human history. The consciousness bridge technology that she had perfected allowed human operators to temporarily connect their minds with alien populations across vast distances of space. It was not mind control or mental domination, but something far more powerful. It was forced empathy. "Admiral, all consciousness bridge stations are online," Lisa reported. "We have established contact with civilian populations on 400 Coalition worlds. The psychological warfare protocols are ready for deployment." Commander Jason Burke materialized on the bridge as his quantum marines returned from their latest mission. Jason's soldiers could exist in multiple realities at the same time, which made them perfect for operations that required absolute precision. They could strike at enemy targets while simultaneously protecting civilian populations in the same locations. "Sir, we have successfully disabled military installations on 12 Coalition core worlds," Jason reported while his armor shifted between visible and transparent states. "All alien military personnel have been rendered unconscious but unharmed. Their weapons stockpiles have been neutralized, and their command centers are under our control." Jake nodded with satisfaction. The quantum marines were perhaps humanity's most effective tool for demonstrating power without causing mass casualties. When alien soldiers woke up to find their bases occupied by enemies, they could not see or touch. The psychological impact was devastating to Coalition morale. Dr. Helen Parker entered the command center carrying reports from her psychological warfare division. Helen was a small woman with dark hair who understood alien minds better than most aliens understood themselves. Her empathy weapon protocols could force entire enemy populations to experience human emotions and memories, making them understand exactly what the blockade had done to Earth. "Admiral, the consciousness bridge tests have been remarkably successful," Helen reported with obvious satisfaction. "When alien civilians experience human memories of the 3-year blockade, they immediately understand why we had to respond with overwhelming force. Support for continued warfare against humanity is collapsing on most Coalition worlds." The genius of Helen's approach was that it did not rely on propaganda or threats, but on genuine emotional connection. When Zephyrian mothers experienced the memories of human parents watching their children go hungry during the blockade, they understood that humans had been fighting for survival, not conquest. When alien scientists felt the frustration and determination that had driven human innovation, they realized that Earth's technological breakthroughs were the result of desperate necessity. General Harrison contacted Jake from his underground facility with updates on the Reality Shaper deployment. "Admiral, we have successfully established dimensional control zones around all major Coalition worlds. Any attempt to rebuild their military forces will be detected and neutralized before they can become a threat to human interests." Jake looked at the galactic map on his main screen, which showed human influence spreading like ripples across space. Red zones marked areas where Coalition forces had been neutralized. Blue zones indicated worlds where consciousness bridge operations had turned alien populations against their own military leaders. Green zones showed planets that had already sent diplomatic messages requesting peace negotiations with Earth. "Sir, we are receiving a priority transmission from Coalition High Command," Lieutenant Amy Clark announced from her communication station. "They are requesting immediate ceasefire talks and offering complete surrender." Jake smiled, but he knew that simple surrender would not be enough to ensure lasting peace. The aliens needed to understand that humanity had become something fundamentally different from what they had been 3 years ago. Earth was no longer a single planet that could be blockaded or threatened. Humanity had transcended the normal limitations of space and time. "Put me through to Coalition High Command," Jake ordered as he prepared to make the most important speech in galactic history. The main screen activated, showing the faces of a dozen alien leaders representing species from across 3 galaxy clusters. Their expressions showed fear, confusion, and desperate hope that humanity might be willing to negotiate rather than continue its devastating demonstrations of power. "Leaders of the Coalition, this is Admiral Morrison of Earth Defense Command," Jake began in a calm, steady voice. "You have seen what humanity can accomplish when we are threatened with extinction. Our reality shaper technology can neutralize any military force. Our dimensional strike teams can attack any target regardless of defensive measures. Our consciousness bridge systems can turn your own populations against you." The alien leaders listened in silence as Jake continued his speech. They had no choice but to listen because their fleets were destroyed, their weapons were useless, and their people were demanding peace with the terrifying humans who could apparently do impossible things. "But Earth does not seek to rule over you through fear," Jake said as his expression softened slightly. "We do not want to be galactic conquerors or cosmic tyrants. We want security for our people and respect for our sovereignty. We want trade, agreements that benefit both humans and aliens. We want a galaxy where different species can coexist without constant warfare." General Harrison activated the galaxy speaker system as Jake's speech was broadcast simultaneously to every inhabited world in 3 galaxy clusters. Billions of alien civilians heard the human admiral's words and began to understand that Earth offered them a choice between partnership and destruction. "However," Jake continued as his voice became harder, "humanity will never again allow any species or alliance to threaten our existence. Any future aggression against human colonies or Earth itself will result in the complete temporal erasure of the attacking civilization. We have the technology to remove entire species from history while leaving their planets intact for other forms of life. Dr. Mitchell's reset protocol was humanity's ultimate weapon, a threat so terrible that no rational species would risk triggering it. The ability to reach backward through time and prevent alien civilizations from ever developing space travel was a power that transcended normal concepts of military force. The alien leaders on the communication screen looked at each other with expressions of absolute terror. They were beginning to understand that humanity had not simply won a war, but had evolved into something beyond their ability to comprehend or resist. "You have 72 hours to respond to our terms," Jake concluded. "Accept human hegemony and benefit from our protection and technological assistance, or face gradual removal from galactic civilization. The choice is entirely yours." As the communication ended, Jake could hear the sound that would later become known as the scream across the void. It was not a literal scream, but the collective realization of thousands of alien civilizations that the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had become the dominant power in local space not through conquest, but through the demonstration of capabilities that made resistance futile. Dr. Campbell looked up from her instruments with amazement in her eyes. "Admiral, we are receiving surrender messages from over 600 coalition worlds. Their governments are competing with each other to be the first to accept our terms." The age of human supremacy had begun, not with violence, but with the promise of something better than endless warfare. Earth had proven that it could destroy any enemy, but had chosen instead to offer partnership to those wise enough to accept it. Admiral Susan Blake stood on the bridge of her flagship watching the largest alien fleet in galactic history approach Earth. 2 million Zephyrian coalition ships had come from every corner of 3 galaxy clusters to destroy humanity once and for all. The alien armada stretched across space like a metal storm cloud filled with enough firepower to crack planets in half. Susan was a woman with silver hair and calm blue eyes who had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. While the Coalition had been building their blockade around Earth, she had been building something far more impressive, in a place where alien eyes could never see it. The Terra fleet existed partially outside normal space and time, which made it invisible to conventional sensors. "Captain Nelson, report to the bridge," Susan spoke into her communication system. Captain Troy Nelson arrived within minutes wearing the dark blue uniform of Earth's Dimensional Navy. Troy was a young pilot with black hair and steady hands who had trained for 2 years to fly humanity's most advanced warship. His ship, the EDS Reality Shaper, could do things that would make alien scientists question everything they thought they knew about physics. "Admiral, the Coalition fleet will reach Earth's orbital space in 4 hours, Troy reported. Their formation includes 12 super dreadnoughts and 3 planet-killer weapons. They are not planning to negotiate." Susan smiled coldly as she looked at the tactical display showing the massive enemy force. "They still think we are the same primitive species they encountered 3 years ago. They have no idea what Earth has become while they were congratulating themselves on their easy victory." Dr. Ryan Mitchell entered the bridge carrying a data pad that contained information about humanity's most secret and terrible weapon. Ryan was a brilliant scientist with gray hair and worried eyes who had spent 3 years creating something that could change the past itself. His galactic reset protocol could reach backward through time and alter the history of entire civilizations. "Admiral, I must protest one more time," Ryan said as he handed her the datapad. "The reset protocol is too dangerous. If we use it to reduce enemy civilizations to pre-industrial technology, we will be changing the fundamental nature of galactic society. The ethical implications are staggering." Susan took the datapad and looked at the weapon specifications. She understood Ryan's concerns, but she also understood that sometimes terrible choices had to be made to protect innocent lives. "Doctor, how many human colonies has the Coalition destroyed over the past 50 years? According to our records, they have eliminated 43 human settlements and enslaved the populations of 12 others," Ryan replied reluctantly. "And how many billion humans have died because of their aggression?" Susan continued. "Approximately 8 billion casualties over 5 decades of conflict," Ryan admitted. Susan handed the datapad back to him. "Doctor, I hope we never have to use your reset protocol, but if the Coalition forces us to choose between human extinction and their technological regression, we will choose to survive. The moral weight of that decision is mine to carry, not yours." Captain Nelson checked his instruments as the Terra fleet began to decloak from its hidden dimensional space. One by one, thousands of human warships materialized around Earth like ghosts becoming solid. Each ship was built with technology that combined human engineering with physics that alien science said was impossible. "Admiral, all ships are reporting ready for combat," Troy announced. "The reality shaper systems are online, and the dimensional displacement fields are active. We can rewrite local physics in a sphere extending 1 light year from Earth." Susan nodded and activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Blake. Today we show the galaxy what humanity has become. Remember that we fight not for conquest, but for the right to exist. We are not monsters seeking to destroy alien civilizations. We are protectors defending our home and our people. Make every shot count and minimize casualties whenever possible." The Coalition fleet entered Earth's solar system expecting to find a defenseless planet guarded by primitive chemical rockets and simple energy weapons. Instead, they encountered human warships that seemed to ignore basic physics and weapons that rewrote the fundamental laws of reality within their area of effect. The first Coalition attack wave consisted of 5,000 heavy cruisers that opened fire with plasma cannons and antimatter torpedoes. Their weapons should have been powerful enough to burn through any known defensive system. Instead, the energy blasts simply faded away as they entered the reality shaper field around Earth, where human technology had changed the basic properties of matter and energy. Captain Nelson led the counterattack in his reality shaper warship, diving through Coalition formations like a shark swimming through schools of fish. Where his ship passed, alien weapons stopped working, and alien shields failed, while human firepower increased exponentially. Coalition ships found their engines shutting down, and their computers displaying error messages in languages that did not exist. "Admiral, this is impossible," came the voice of Coalition Fleet Commander Zex Thor over the emergency communication channel. "Your weapons are violating the basic laws of physics. Matter and energy cannot behave the way we are observing them behave." Susan activated the response channel. "Commander Zex Thor, you are correct that our technology appears to violate physics as you understand it. What you do not realize is that physics is not a set of unchangeable laws. Physics is simply a description of how reality normally works. humans have learned how to make reality work differently. The Coalition's second attack wave included their planet-killer weapons, massive ships designed to crack worlds apart with focused gravitational fields. These weapons had destroyed dozens of planets throughout galactic history, and no known defensive system could stop them. But when they fired on Earth, their gravitational beams were absorbed by dimensional barriers that existed in folded space-time. Dr. Mitchell monitored the battle from his laboratory deep beneath Earth's surface. His instruments showed that Coalition forces were becoming increasingly desperate as their most powerful weapons proved completely useless against human defenses. Soon they would escalate to total war tactics that might force humanity to use the reset protocol. "Admiral Blake, this is Dr. Mitchell," he spoke into his communication system. "Coalition High Command is preparing to deploy biological weapons against Earth's population centers. They are planning to make the planet uninhabitable, even if they cannot defeat our fleet." Susan received the message while watching Coalition forces regroup for their third attack. She knew that biological warfare against civilian populations was a line that could not be uncrossed. If the aliens were willing to commit genocide against humanity, then humanity would have to respond with equal determination. "Dr. Mitchell, prepare the reset protocol for limited deployment," she ordered with a heavy heart. "Target only the Coalition's most aggressive species and reduce their technology level to approximately 19th century Earth equivalent. Leave their populations alive, but remove their ability to wage interstellar war." The final phase of the battle began as Coalition forces deployed their biological weapons in a desperate attempt to destroy Earth's population. The alien virus bombs should have been unstoppable, but they encountered reality fields where biological processes worked according to human programming, rather than natural evolution. The viruses simply dissolved into harmless organic compounds. Captain Nelson received new orders from Admiral Blake as the Reality Shaper fleet prepared for its final demonstration. "All ships, we are now authorized to deploy Class 5 reality distortion fields. Show them what happens when humans stop playing by the rules of normal physics entirely." The Terra fleet unleashed its full power against the Coalition armada. Reality Shaper fields expanded across the battlefield, causing alien ships to experience physics that had never existed before. Some enemy vessels found themselves unable to exist in three-dimensional space, while others discovered that time moved backward in their immediate vicinity. Within 2 hours, the largest military force in galactic history was reduced to helpless metal debris floating in space around Earth. Not a single alien soldier had been killed, but their ships were completely disabled, and their weapons were transformed into harmless scrap metal by alterations in local reality. The galaxy had learned that humanity was no longer bound by the limitations that constrained other species. Earth had become something beyond alien comprehension, a civilization that could rewrite the fundamental nature of existence itself to protect what it valued most. Captain Ben Rodriguez pressed his face against the cold metal of his ship's viewing port and watched the alien fleet through the darkness of space. The Zephyrian ships looked like giant metal spiders with their long arms reaching out in all directions. Each ship was bigger than a city back on Earth. There were thousands of them floating in perfect formation around Earth like a deadly fence that nothing could pass through. Ben had been watching these ships for 3 years now. 3 long years since the Zephyrian coalition had surrounded Earth and cut off all contact with human colonies in other star systems. The aliens thought they had won. They thought Earth was beaten and ready to give up. They were very wrong about that. The EDS Shadowhawk was the smallest ship in Earth's fleet, but it was also the most important. Ben's ship could turn invisible and slip past enemy sensors like a ghost. For 3 years he had been flying secret missions into alien space while the Zephyrians celebrated their easy victory over the humans. What they did not know was that Ben brought back vital information every time he returned to Earth. Ben turned away from the window and walked to the bridge where his small crew was working quietly at their stations. Lieutenant Amy Clark looked up from her computer screen with tired eyes. She had been tracking alien communications for the past 6 hours without a break. Her job was to listen to everything the aliens said to each other and figure out their plans. "Any new information, Amy?" Ben asked as he sat down in his captain's chair. "They are getting impatient, sir," Amy replied while pushing her blonde hair away from her face. The coalition leaders are talking about demanding surrender from Earth within the next few days. They think we have been quiet too long, and that means we are ready to give up. Ben smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a wolf makes when it sees a deer walking into a trap. Let them think that, Amy. The longer they believe we are helpless, the better it will be for us. On Earth, far below them, Admiral Jake Morrison sat in his underground command center, reading the same reports that Amy had just given to Ben. The Admiral was a big man with gray hair and a metal arm that he had gotten during the war on Mars 20 years ago. His real arm had been blown off by an alien bomb, but the metal one was actually stronger than the original. Jake looked at the dozens of screens around him that showed everything happening in space above Earth. Each screen told a different story, but they all said the same thing. The Zephyrians were getting ready to make their final demand for human surrender. They had no idea what was really happening on Earth while they waited in their ships. Dr. Lisa Campbell walked into the command center carrying a thick folder of papers. She was a small woman with dark hair and the smartest person Jake had ever met. Lisa understood science in ways that made Jake's head hurt when she tried to explain it to him. But he trusted her completely because her science had kept Earth safe for 3 years. The final tests are complete, Admiral, Lisa said as she placed the folder on Jake's desk. All systems are working perfectly. We can begin the demonstration whenever you give the order. Jake opened the folder and looked at the numbers and charts inside. He could not understand most of what he saw, but he knew these papers represented the most powerful weapons ever created by human hands. Weapons that would make the Zephyrians wish they had never heard of Earth. How many of them do we have ready? Lisa, Jake asked without looking up from the papers. 57 reality shapers are online and ready for combat. The dimensional strike teams have completed their training. The stellar cascade system is charged and waiting, and the Galaxy speaker network is ready to broadcast to every inhabited system within 3 galaxy clusters. Jake closed the folder and leaned back in his chair. 3 years ago, when the Zephyrian fleet had first appeared over Earth, everyone thought humanity was doomed. The aliens had better technology and more ships, and they controlled most of the known galaxy. Earth seemed like a small blue planet full of primitive creatures who played with simple rockets and basic energy weapons. But Jake had known something the aliens did not. Humans were different from every other species in the galaxy. When humans were trapped and faced with certain death, they did not just lie down and wait to die. They got angry, they got creative, and they found ways to do impossible things. Commander Kate Sullivan entered the command center and saluted Jake. Kate was in charge of Earth's spy network, and she knew more about alien military secrets than most alien generals did. Her people had been working day and night for 3 years to learn everything about Coalition technology and battle tactics. Admiral, our agents report that Coalition High Command is planning to send their final ultimatum tomorrow morning, Kate said. They expect Earth to surrender unconditionally within 72 hours or they will begin bombing our cities. Jake stood up and walked to the main viewing screen that showed Earth from space. The planet looked beautiful and peaceful, with its blue oceans and white clouds. It was hard to believe that deadly alien ships surrounded it like hungry sharks, but Jake could see past the beauty to the real Earth underneath. An Earth that had spent 3 years preparing for this exact moment. Send a message to Ben Rodriguez, Jake told Kate. Tell him to get ready for the show of his life, and contact General Harrison. Tell him it's time to wake up Project Prometheus. Kate nodded and hurried away to send the messages. Jake looked at Lisa, who was watching him with curious eyes. You sure we are ready for this, Lisa? Jake asked. Once we start down this path, there will be no going back. The galaxy will never be the same. Lisa smiled, and for the first time in 3 years, Jake saw real happiness in her expression. Admiral, the galaxy has no idea what humans can do when we put our minds to it. The Zephyrians think they know everything about warfare and technology. They are about to learn that they know nothing at all. High above Earth, in his invisible ship, Ben Rodriguez received Kate's message and felt his heart beat faster with excitement. After 3 years of hiding and watching and waiting, it was finally time to show the galaxy what Earth had been building in secret. Tomorrow the aliens would demand surrender, and Earth would give them an answer they would never forget. The silent, Planet was about to scream. General Paul Harrison walked through the secret tunnels deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, where Project Prometheus had been hidden for 3 years. The tunnels were filled with the sound of humming machines and the bright glow of energy screens that showed readouts from across the galaxy. Thousands of scientists and engineers worked at stations that controlled weapons the Zephyrian Coalition could not even imagine. Paul was a tall man with dark skin and eyes that had seen too many wars. He had spent 40 years fighting alien invasions, and he knew that today would be different from every battle that came before it. Today humanity would stop running and hiding. Today, they would show the galaxy what Earth could really do when it was angry. "Status report, Dr. Turner," Paul called out as he approached the main control station where Dr. Alex Turner was checking the final systems. Alex was a young man with red hair who looked more like a college student than the creator of humanity's most terrible weapon. His hands moved quickly over the control panels as he made sure every part of the stellar cascade system was ready for its first real test. "All 57 cascade generators are online, General," Alex said without looking, away from his screens. "We have clear targeting data for the Zephyrian military base in the Kepler system. The dimensional shields around their colonies are calibrated and ready. We can trigger a controlled supernova whenever you give the command." Paul nodded and moved to the next station where Colonel Maria Santos was suiting up in armor that seemed to shift and bend like liquid metal. Maria was the leader of the 1st Dimensional Strike Battalion, and her soldiers could do things that would make alien scientists think they were seeing magic. "How are your teams feeling, Maria?" Paul asked as he watched her check her equipment. "Ready to finally hit back, sir," Maria replied with a fierce smile. "My soldiers have been training in alternate dimensions for 2 years. We can phase through solid matter, walk through walls, and appear anywhere we want without warning. The aliens have never faced anything like us." Paul looked around the massive underground facility and felt a surge of pride in what humanity had accomplished. When the Zephyrian blockade began, most people thought Earth was finished. The aliens had cut off all trade and communication with human colonies. No ships could get in or out of Earth's solar system. The Coalition expected humans to slowly starve and surrender. But Paul had known that humans never gave up that easily. While the aliens watched Earth's surface and waited for signs of surrender, Paul's teams had been digging deep underground and building weapons that broke every rule of physics that aliens thought they understood. The stellar cascade system could make any star explode like a bomb while protecting the planets around it with dimensional barriers. The dimensional strike teams could attack from directions that did not exist in normal space. And the reality shaper technology could change the basic laws of physics in small areas, making enemy weapons useless while boosting human firepower beyond belief. Admiral Morrison's voice came over the communication system from his command center. "General Harrison, this is Admiral Morrison. The Coalition has just sent their final ultimatum. We have 72 hours to surrender, or they begin bombing our cities. I think it is time to give them a demonstration of what Earth has been working on." Paul smiled and pressed the communication button. "Understood, Admiral. Beginning demonstration phase 1 now. Alex, start the stellar cascade sequence. Maria, take your team and hit the Zephyrian outpost in Sector 7. Show them what dimensional warfare looks like." Dr. Turner's hands flew over his controls as he activated the stellar cascade system. On the main screen, Paul could see the Zephyrian military base in the Kepler system. It was a huge complex of metal buildings and defensive towers built on 3 different planets. Nearly 50,000 alien soldiers lived and worked there, thinking they were completely safe. "Cascade generator charging," Alex announced. "Dimensional. Shields deploying around inhabited areas. Stellar ignition sequence beginning in 10 seconds. Paul watched the countdown on the screen and thought about all the human colonies the Zephyrians had attacked over the years. All the human ships they had destroyed. All the human families they had killed or enslaved. Today was payback time. "Ignition. Sequence complete," Alex said quietly. On the screen, the star at the center of the Kepler system began to glow brighter and brighter until it exploded in a blast of fire that should have destroyed everything in the system. But the dimensional shields held and the inhabited planets survived, while the military base was swept away by cosmic fire that burned hotter than anything in normal space. At the same time, Colonel Santos and her dimensional strike team materialized. inside the Zephyrian outpost in Sector 7. The alien guards could not understand what they were seeing, as human soldiers seemed to appear from thin air and walk through solid walls like ghosts. Their weapons passed harmlessly through the dimensional soldiers while human energy blasts struck with impossible force. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. When it was over, every alien soldier in the outpost was unconscious, and their weapons were destroyed, but none of them were killed. Maria had strict orders not to take lives unless absolutely necessary. This was a demonstration, not a massacre. Reports began flooding in from across Zephyrian space as word of the impossible attack spread through their communication networks. Coalition scientists could not explain how humans had made a star explode while saving the planets around it. Their military leaders could not understand how human soldiers could attack from dimensions that did not exist. General Harrison received a priority message from Admiral Morrison. "Paul, our listening posts are picking up panic communications from Coalition High Command. They are demanding explanations from their scientists about what just happened. Their physicists are telling them that what we did should be impossible." Paul laughed as he read the message. "Send word to all our teams, Admiral. Begin demonstration phase 2. I want every coalition world to see what Earth can do. But remember, we are not trying to destroy them. We want them to surrender, not to make them extinct." Over the next 6 hours, human dimensional strike teams hit 12 different Zephyrian military installations, while stellar cascade weapons destroyed 3 more heavily fortified starbases. Each attack was perfectly planned to cause maximum shock with minimum casualties. The message was clear. Earth could strike anywhere at any time with weapons that ignored every defensive system the aliens had ever built. Dr. Turner monitored the results from his control station and reported to General Harrison. "Sir, our intelligence networks report that coalition fleets are in complete confusion. They are pulling back from forward positions and calling for emergency meetings of their high command. Some of their species are already talking about abandoning the blockade." Colonel Santos returned from her latest mission with her dimensional strike team intact and victorious. "General, the aliens are terrified," she reported. "Their soldiers do not know how to fight enemies they cannot see or touch. Some of them are running away from their posts." Paul nodded with satisfaction, but he knew this was only the beginning. The real test would come when the coalition tried to strike back at Earth. They would send their most powerful fleets and their best weapons against humanity's homeworld, expecting to find a planet full of primitive creatures, hiding behind simple defenses. Instead, they would discover that Earth had become something far more dangerous than they could possibly imagine. A planet that could reshape reality itself and turn the laws of physics into weapons of war. "Prepare Phase 3, Alex," Paul ordered. "When they come for Earth, we will be ready to show them what humanity really looks like when we stop holding back."